the potter. We are the clay. We just heard that prayer from the prophet Isaiah. And when making pottery, one of the essential qualities of the clay is that it's soft enough to be malleable, to be able to be formed into whatever shape that we want it to become. And when we've made it the shape we desire, the next step is for the clay to be put in contact with fire, where it will become hardened, as it could, for example, as with this plate. The human heart, I believe, goes through a similar process, especially when we are infants and children. We're very malleable. I mean, we're formed by the forces and fires of our lives that help shape the kind of person we will be. Those who love us, those who hurt us, the decisions we make, how we worship, we study, the actions we choose again and again. And slowly then, something starts to solidify in us more and more. This is the sense of the type of person that I am. This is true of our faith as well, and what I believe and how I will live. And we become stronger and stronger often in that sense of identity. But here's the challenge. We cannot stop keeping a soft place in our hearts. You see, this plate, now that it has been fired, is useful, huh? It's got a role for us, but this is it. This is what it will always be. I could no longer, if I wanted this to become a cup because I was thirsty, make it that, or a statue or a crucifix. No, because it's hardened now, that's what it will be. It must not be like that for us. You and I, even as we form that identity, have to keep a place in us soft enough to the touch of God, that we might be available for whatever love and life will ask of us, huh? The temptation is to become rigid and hard. It seems that in the second half of life, there are some people, but you've known them, who become generative, just softies at heart, and others who become grumpy old men. We know women who are loving and kind and available for whatever life will ask of them at this stage of their life, and others who become shrill and bitter. And I think it is because we've not kept a soft place in our hearts. How about you? How about me? Am I still able to be taught, or is my mind all made up? Am I still able to see the pain in this world, or have I steeled my heart against it? Am I able to cry with tenderness, or even weep for joy, or not? Is my heart pliable enough that at the nudging of God, I can offer forgiveness? Or will I never forgive? I will never forgive. My brothers and sisters, you and I are asked by God to keep a place in our hearts tender to the touch of God. And today we begin the great season of Advent. And I think of all those great Advent characters we'll hear about. John the Baptist, Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, the Magi, each of whom was wise and holy enough to not be so set in their ways that when the call of God came, they could respond, they could change, they could hear, they could receive. And so it must be for us. Part of the challenge of Advent, I believe, is to look at our lives and where I am rigid to become flexible again by the grace of God, and where my heart is hardened by the mercy of God to let it become tender again, and to where I am so set in my ways, maybe to be open anew to what God might have for me or through me. Over the weekend, a family was telling me about how, as one of their traditions on Thanksgiving, they would draw names for Christmas gifts. And one of the members of the family was out of work. And they're saying, it's going to be hard for us to afford Christmas gifts for family members this year. And somebody suggested, well, maybe we don't even really need to do that. Because when you get down to what really matters. And someone else, before she could catch herself, said, well, if we're not going to be giving gifts to each other, what's the point of even getting together for Christmas? Yeah. Jesus said, be awake. What happens, I think, is sometimes we just fall asleep. We just get hard and we get so set in our ways we don't even realize what we do or why we do it. What are your Advent traditions and your Christmas traditions? Are they opening your heart to love? Good. If not, maybe it's time to listen to the voice of God lead us in a different way. Jesus was very clear today. He said, be awake, be awake, be awake. You don't know when love will come or what love will ask of you. And if our hearts are soft to the touch, then we'll be ready for love and what love asks of us. For some, we just become so hardened and set in our ways. For others, we've kept a place in our hearts tender and soft and available for love. You, Lord, are the potter. We are the clay. And boys and girls, before we go, let's have a word with Big Al and see what he's thinking. Well, hello, buddy. How are you? Bummed. You're bummed? What? Mizzou, yeah, that wasn't so great, was it? Yeah, so, I hear you. Well, all right. Sometimes things don't go the way we want. So, Big Al, I've got an idea. I want to show you two things and have you tell me what they remind you of. What do you think? First of all, Big Al, who or what does this remind you of? You. It reminds me of you? Yeah. Oh, good. Why would you say that? Ugly lump. It's an ugly lump. I see. Okay. All right. Well, then let's take a look at something else. Okay. So, Big Al, who does this remind you of? Me. Why does that remind you of you? It's beautiful. Well, Big Al, I actually am glad that you said this reminded you of me. Why? Because notice how it's soft. I want to keep a soft place in my heart. Why? Well, Big Al, because then I would be like Mary and Joseph and Jesus, ready for whatever love might ask of me. Whoa. And I think that you weren't too far off when you said that this reminded you of yourself. Hard-headed. Well, I'm glad you said it. Yeah, and I mean, maybe sometimes knowing that is the first step. So, well, Big Al, I'll say a prayer for you and for each of us that we'll keep a place in our hearts that is soft for love. Boy. And boys and girls, we've sometimes talked about it's okay if mom or dad cry, isn't it? Yeah. You wouldn't cry if you didn't care. And I think it's important all through our lives that we keep a place in us that's soft for love.